Okay, and we're getting ready to get started. And let's see.
Is my camera working?
That's Annie. Hi,
Hey,
Annie. So you're the iPhone. I was thinking that might be you. So
I
you're
don't know why sometimes the camera does its thing and sometimes the camera doesn't do its thing.
yeah. So if you swipe to the bottom right of your cell phone, there should be a thing to start video or stop video.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you, my friend and Jim, for joining us here today to be a guest and to tell us about your incredible body and mind life transformational event and your near-death experience, which I can't even begin to imagine what you thought, what you felt, everything that you experienced. I just got a tiny little sliver of a little sliver when we were at the stem cell convention. And people kept on telling me, you need to meet Annie DeBecker. You need to meet Annie DeBecker. You need to hear her story. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this rock star. I need to find who this is. And then, of course, we were introduced, and immediately I felt like we were kindred spirits. Oh, I'm getting the chills just saying that. And when you told me a little bit about your story, I'm like, you do have to come share with my viewers because this is going to impact and improve the lives of people. And if just one person gets saved by this story, because if you can go through everything you went through and make it to the other side where just minutes ago, 2 minutes ago, you just finished another skydive, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I just landed. The clouds are moving in, so we're done for the day.
How
Worked out. Perfect
good.
timing.
Perfect timing. How good. How much better can it get? So I want to thank everyone that's on the Zoom call here today. You'll be able to ask Annie questions. So before we get started, Annie, I would love you to tell our viewers here at Love and Money Secrets TV, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? Did you come from a family of one? Did you have a family of a dozen kids? Tell us a little bit about where, how.
Okay, so I was born in northern Indiana, and my parents were already kind of confused and divorcing and moving around a lot. So I ended up moving a lot. So I've lived when I was young in Indiana and Ohio, being raised a lot by my grandparents. I lived in Minnesota, and we traveled a lot, going back and forth between moms and stepdad and dad and stepmom and grandparents and aunts and uncles and all those three places, primarily growing up: Indiana, Ohio, Minnesota. And I got to spend a lot of time with my grandparents, who were four amazing people, two of which were out on the farm in Indiana. So I got to experience all that fun farm animal thing growing up. And my grandfather actually had airplanes when I was little bitty. So I was always kind of comfortable around airplanes and my brothers and animals. And a long time later, after I finished high school, I decided to move out west, where one set of my grandparents were retiring in Scottsdale. And then from there, I met friends and ended up moving out to San Diego. And from there, I ended up getting a job with Pan Am as a flight attendant.
Oh,
And I was on a flight and learned about skydiving from some passengers. And I was really curious, like, wow, that sounds exciting. What is that? And so it was years later, I tried it for the first time and loved it. And then found out you can compete. I found out that you can be on a team, and that really appealed to me. Doing my part for the team, I do a kind of skydiving that's not normal skydiving. We connect our parachutes together and make formations in the sky like diamonds with our parachutes open. And it's very unusual type. So you know how normal people look at skydivers and they say, you guys are crazy.
yeah.
Well, skydivers look at us and they say, you guys are crazy, because we're all taught to stay away from open parachutes. So that's what I do. I love doing my part for the team. I've been able to be on some world records and in the Guinness Book, and got to go to Egypt last year. I'm the first female crew dog to get to do that over there in that country, and that was amazing, by the Mediterranean Sea. But the crazy thing that happened to my body was so random. In 2011, 11 years ago, I was running around doing my thing, skydiving and living half the time in Florida and half the time in Indiana. And I got this low grade fever that never shut down, which turns out to be a toxic body response, what they call autoimmune response, which normally a fever is a healthy response to fight infection.
Yeah.
But when your body decides to go Steven Johnson syndrome, is what they call it, it's not healthy, it's toxic. And typically people burn up and die from their fever. It's very fatal. There's a very low um, like percentage of people that survive, and the people that do survive, the second and third degree burns give them permanent brain damage in their brain and permanent baldness and permanent scarring and loss of all your fingernails, your toenails permanently, the lips, the tissue in the nose, the ears, the eyeballs, everything, like eyelashes. So that was crazy. I'd never even heard of it before, but it happens apparently a lot. I've been back to a lot of hospital burn units just to do support groups because I was covered 99%. There was not a square inch of me that did not have blisters and scars. In the hospital, I was there for a whole month and I actually died. Technically, clinically, they signed me clinically with a physician signing me as technically dead. And they even called people to line up my organs who would receive my organs. So obviously I didn't stay dead, but I got to learn a lot about Steven Johnson syndrome. I got to know the staff really well since I was there hanging out with them for so long. I couldn't see though. The blisters and the second and third degree burns caused me to, besides lose my heartbeat and my brain cells, it caused me to lose my vision, on my skin. My lips were black and bloody. My tongue was black. Inside my mouth had so many blisters. I couldn't talk. So I had blisters. All my, like I had no neck. They couldn't take my blood pressure or really touch me because my skin was just like oozing and falling, blistering all over. I had no ankles. I had 10 little black mini, like burned up little sausage links for toes, and everything was burned and blistered and gooey and oozing. And so the blisters on my corneas end up like fusing to my eyelids.
Oh my
And so that's why people go blind, because there's knitting from the blisters. And then what they say in the hospital, because there's a lot of people in there that actually have this, they never know who's going to make it or who's not going to make it. I happen to be the oldest one of the bunch of us that were in there with it. There were 7 of us in Tampa General Hospital burn unit at the time with it when I was in there.
wow, that's a
And
lot. 7 people at the same time with the Steven Johnson syndrome.
yes, and 5 died. And I was the most covered, 99% they called it. Although we wonder where was the 1% that wasn't covered with blisters? I don't know. I was covered all over with blisters and burns, second and third degree. And so I lost my vision and I lost a lot of my function. I couldn't really bend my arms or anything because I had blisters everywhere and burns. And so it's kind of a wild thing to be immobilized and not be able to talk and not be able to see. And you're just laying there on your burned places. But I could hear everything. I could hear the nurses talking about me, whispering. I could hear people that came to see me screaming and crying and being rushed out of the room because I looked like unrecognizable as a human.
I've heard that before.
So I guess it was pretty awful sight. They said it was too morbid for them to take pictures of me. They wouldn't let my son see me. He was 12 at the time. And
Dramatic, yeah.
they just said they didn't really think that would be great for his last image of his mother to be like, all that burned up mess. So
Wow.
it's like God brought me through the fire. And
Yeah, that's an incredible literal refiner's fire that you're being literally burned from the inside out, and everything is being destroyed. I mean, you had a lot of cellular and muscle and nerve damage as a result. I don't know how you did not lose your hearing, but I think God in his mercy let you at least keep one sense so that you could
I had tiny blisters in my ears, and I had blisters in my nose, and of course on my the blisters, the burns, they love the mucous membranes. So that's a big part of the problem as you're trying to recover. Typical survivors, the tissue that's melted in the mucous membranes is a problem sometimes. Like for example, the eyeball, you guys probably don't realize this, but you all have this nice layer of mucus around your eyeball. And when you get all burned up and you lose that mucus, it's very irritating and hard to open and close your eyes. And then the bright light, it's just the opening and closing. And they don't make mucus drops. They make drops for tears and moisture, but not mucus. So it's a problem. But it's cool because I've discovered all these neat wellness additives and regenerative ways to help my body. And the doctors say, we didn't even know it was possible. We thought scars were forever. We thought you're pretty much going to have to live like this and deal with this. The headaches, the issues with the eyes, in the mouth, all my nails that didn't grow back. I got 18 and a half of my nails back after all of them were lost. All of my nails.
wow.
And they didn't expect that. But the body can regenerate things that they didn't know that it could.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hope.
So let's talk about how long were you hospitalized for? You said a month?
It was a month. I went in July and I got out in August. And the reason why Stevens-Johnson syndrome happens to people is when they ingest a synthetic drug of any kind, over the counter, Advil, Aleve, Motrin, Benadryl, anything. For me, it was an antibiotic that I was prescribed for a mild bladder infection that I had taken before with no problem. But this time it decided to respond in a toxic way and wasn't good.
So this, in your particular case, it was an antibiotic that triggered the Stevens-Johnson syndrome response.
Right.
But it could have been any over-the-counter or any prescribed med at this point, as far as
right.
So I can't even begin to think and imagine the emotions and the thoughts and the feelings and the sensations, because it sounds like a pure hell that you went through. And it makes no sense that it's like, why is this happening? You didn't do anything wrong. You just, had a bladder infection, took this antibiotic. No one would ever think twice about, not taking the antibiotic is actually not an option, because if you have a bladder infection, the pain is crazy. So you need to stop that infection. So then what happened next to move you forward on your healing journey?
And it was interesting as I got to know the nurses in the hospital. They told me that a lot of times when a patient comes down to the wire like that, they become combative. And they said they were talking about my spirit, my attitude. I had a great, even sense of humor as I was joking in my sign language, to say, Bernie is my nurse and he works in the burn unit, haha. And they were saying it was not typical, but I don't know how to have any other kind of attitude other than the kind I have, or I don't know how to have another kind of spirit except for what I have. And I wasn't feeling afraid, because I just felt like there was a presence with me in the room the whole time. And I'm kind of looking to be coachable and find out what the nurses want me to do next. What do you want me to do next? I couldn't really see but I could hear, instructions. Like it sounded like everyone was far away, but coming out of that, I just felt like, well, you deal with it, whatever. You're kind of in life, you have to kind of be resourceful and figure out how to go to plan B. Sometimes things don't work out the way that you think, and you just make the best of it. And then as I've been this sort of, I found out that when they're used to seeing so many Steven Johnson syndrome patients all the time, typically they have a 25% burns and blisters and they don't make it. And I had 99%. And they said the only thing they can tell, because there's nothing they can draw a conclusion if you're a smoker, if you're a non-smoker, if you're old, if you're young, if you're this race or that race. They said the only thing they know for sure, and there's nothing they can do for you except treat your burns with wet Silvadene gauze every day and just hope that you survive. They gave me a temperature controlled environment, because when you lose all your skin, you can't control your temperature. But other than that, they said the only thing that they know for sure is if the 2nd and 3rd degree burns and blisters decide to go systemic down into your system, like your respiratory system, your heart, your lungs, your organs can't handle 2nd and 3rd degree burns. So they said anytime that they've ever seen it go systemic, that's it.
It's gone.
It's not survivable. And so here's the thing. On Wednesday, August 3rd, it went systemic on me.
No way. Are you kidding? And so you must have known immediately because it got monumentally worse. So, okay. So give us a little sliver of a notion when you realized.
In the moment, I was having a very, what I call detailed, vivid dream of the nurses trying to gather my whole family behind a curtain, and they were going to reveal the whole family. Surprise, we came to visit you at the hospital. Like, I knew I was in a hospital. I knew there were nurses around. And then I could hear my whole family, my grandmother, my sister-in-law, my nieces, my nephews, everyone was behind this curtain. It was weird. And someone, they wanted me to fall asleep so they could like make the surprise happen. And twice I tried to make myself fall asleep, and twice that flatlining boop noise disturbed the regular beeping noises in the hospital and woke me up twice. And then they say I flatlined twice. So that's kind of weird. But they said I was non-responsive that day, that everything was pointing to not good. And just coming out of that, I didn't really know the extreme level until later on, but I did know that I could see figures coming into my room every day. I'd have like a parade of white coat figures, like doctors bringing students to gawk at me and to tell me, oh my God, nurses would be like, because I'd see a figure come in for the day and I'd say, are you my nurse for the day? And they would be like, no, we were there when we intubated you, or we were there when you were admitted. We were there to wrap you or unwrap you. And I was the one that survived it going systemic. They had never seen that before. So and on Wednesday, August 3rd was the same Wednesday that I had North Dakota, Indiana, and Florida church people, family praying for me and sending a prayer cloth. And my Florida church people, the wife of the pastor told me later she's never seen her husband so torn which way to pray for someone, because here I was covered in burns and in a lot of pain, laying on all my burned parts and not being able to see. And prognosis was permanently bald, blind, and brain damaged and scarred up, that my 12-year-old would be stuck pushing around a bald, brain damaged, burned up mom for the rest of his life. Should we just pray that she go to heaven and get out of pain? Or should we pray that she somehow survived this? And on Wednesday, August 3rd, he decided that the church, it was Wednesday night church service, and he told the congregation, we're just going to pray that she survives. And that was Wednesday, August 3rd also. So that happened. And here I am with almost all my nails back, a lot of my hair, a lot of my eyelashes came back. My, the tissue, like my eyes, I can see, I can breathe in and out all by myself. So yeah, after that, I didn't want to take anything synthetic ever again. So that's how I got into wellness. Because before that, I didn't care about, eating Burger King and drinking Mountain Dew and having Doritos because I was fine. I was healthy. And I never thought about anything to do with health because I felt healthy. So after that, I dove in head first. What is wellness? How do I stay healthy? How do I stay away from pharmaceutical drugs? I don't even take aspirin. So that's when I got involved.
So this is quite extraordinary because when we were in a convention, you told me a little bit about your story, and then you even showed me, you know, your fingernails and your toes, and then you showed me like how you still have a little bit of scarring here and there, but it's pretty mild. Like I would not have noticed it probably if you hadn't pointed it out. And then because there's nothing on your face that I recall seeing. And then you showed me a little bit your arms and your legs, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's very evident that you were covered head to toe in scars from the severe 2nd and 3rd degree burns that you suffered. So I wish we could say that this was the worst horrific thing that you have ever experienced, because I don't know why or how, but then you had another near-death experience, which you should not have been able to have survived by 99.99999% of people who hear what you're about to tell us. You're on your journey to wellness and so forth, and it took you a few years. How long did it take you to get to the point where you could get back to your normal activities and you felt like 95% better?
It took me 4 full months to be able to lift a laundry basket and to be able to zip and open a bottle of water. Like, when you don't have any fingernails and you don't have any skin, even texting is a process because you don't have any leverage. You can't get anything out of your teeth. You can't scratch an itch. You can't get the charging thing open on your cell phone without a fingernail. And the pressure on your skin, even from carpet, is super sensitive when your skin is brand new and you're just bright, shiny red, scar tissue everywhere. The sunlight, they told me I can't swim in a pool. All the chlorine would be too toxic to come into my body because I had fresh skin. And that took 4 months of a lot of soft food. I had still had a lot of blisters in my mouth, and my lips were still like cracking open and bleeding. And so eating, oh, my taste buds came back at 4 months too. That was the best ever. You guys do not take your taste buds for granted. It's awesome having taste buds again. So fingernails, skin, taste buds. It took a while, and then I was back to work on my computer at 4 months. At 5 months, I was able to feel like I could drive, and it was the biggest problem was my eyes and the bright sun in Florida and my headaches. So, and my exhaustion. And I was happy to just have a mild headache every day. I didn't even mind that. So then I was gradually getting back into my life. A couple years later, I found this microcirculation device that really helped my exhaustion level go to energy. So I got back into skydiving, my passion, and my team was doing great. We're qualified to represent the US at the World Meet, and we were practicing one last time right following a tornado the day before. So the weather was not ideal, but there was jumping going on. We jumped 4 times that day with no problem. And then on the last jump of that day, everyone that was coming down to land from that skydive, when we were just like 1 second from the ground, everyone hit some weird turbulence, and we all got like pushed down hard. And my guys on my team had pulled hamstrings, like sprained ankles, they hurt their heel, and my body broke. And the trauma doctors in the hospital said that it was very unusual that I would break all these big bones. My lower back, both of my pelvises broke apart, and it snapped my femur in half. And they said typically, and I still ask questions from my skydiver friends even to this day, that I'll find some friends who have had injuries on landing. Typically their ankle's been just shattered, or their heel was shattered, or their bone was splintered, or they landed hard, they had internal bleeding, which is really bad. That's usually how people don't survive. It's not usually the bone, it's the internal organs. And the doctor said my internal organs had not even a bruise. There was no bleeding, not a bruise. Nothing was twisted or shattered, no ligament or tendon involved, no soft tissue, just these big bones broke inside my body. Wow. And it was kind of like they call unprecedented. So they couldn't really explain how does that work when you break your bones, but you don't damage your soft tissue around your bones. I don't know. So that was crazy because I couldn't bend at the hip and I had both of my hips broken. And that was a bummer. Again, laying on my back and I couldn't even shift in the bed. You know how sometimes you lay down at night and you just want to shift like ever so slightly.
Couldn't move, yeah.
Couldn't shift. So that was a long throbby. And then I discovered, you know, these wellness devices really do work, even on something as regrowing your bone cells faster, regenerating the way that your bones can heal themselves. So I was able to they didn't even give me a prognosis. They said being able to walk again, probably, we don't know when, 6 months, 12 months. Being able to run again or jump again, probably not. We're not sure because we can't even, once you start bearing weight, then maybe we can get you into rehab and then we can tell you what we expect for healing. And I went to my 8-week checkup and the orthopedic surgeon brought my x-rays into the room, said, this is remarkable. You're ready to come out of your wheelchair today and start bearing weight and start rehab. I was like, really? Cool. So I skipped over the walker stage and I went straight from my wheelchair to a cane and I did rehab for 15 days, which worked out because I ended up not having, my job dumped me after that. I didn't have insurance, so I couldn't have afforded anything more anyway, but I was done in a total of September 3rd. It was before Christmas. So 3 months. And I was already able to go up and down stairs. I wasn't moving fast, but I was done with rehab. I was good to go. I was able to like do little hops and like start getting back to normal. So I was technically able to probably run out on a skydive at like 6 months, 7 months, feeling really strong. But emotionally, I couldn't come back until a year later because I was just kind of freaked out. Like it was a freak thing. Nobody knows exactly what happened. And so I couldn't bring myself, like, what if it happened again? And then everyone's playing the game with the odds. They're like, what are the odds that this would happen to you again?
Well, just to have those two massive events between the Stevens-Johnson syndrome and then to have the fluke where you have that environmental change in energy and weather pressure, that all of you got injured. Every single person on your team got injured. But of course, you took the worst, probably because of the pre-existing condition that you had. You had a vulnerability, so the big bones just went snap. What are the chances of that? It's pretty, not just 1 in a million, but it's probably 1 in a billion. And so the fact that you went back a year later and decided to continue skydiving is amazing, that you have that resilience of spirit that you would want to. And
I felt like I was pretty slow. I felt like pretty much a big chicken because I knew my body was ready, and it was just my emotional state that felt weird about going back. And what type of skydiving we do when we connect our parachutes together, a lot of times people will call on us to do air shows and like a memorial dive for a fallen comrade where we sprinkle the ashes at sunset and we're in a diamond formation and do a missing man formation. It's really nice. It's a way to honor people that have passed. And one of my friends unfortunately passed away with a cancer situation. And then he was one of my really good friends. Mm-hmm. They wanted me to be in the memorial dive. And I'm like, I'm going to have to do this. I can't not do it. And so that's what brought me back. And then once I had my first skydive and my first landing, I'm like, oh yeah, this is my thing. There's not going to be another freak. I mean, for a while I was like, I'll skydive, but I will land in a pond every time I land, just in case there's a freak wind around. But no, it's fine. It's been good. And it's my passion. I love doing my part for the team. I love being part of my group. it's yeah, it's just one of the, there's a risk involved when you get in your car. There's risk involved, when there's lightning outside.
Of course.
So you just never know. I figure life is for living. Let's go and live it.
Life is for living. Let's go and live it. So now let's fast forward. Tell me, how did it come about that, because we met at the stem cell convention. So where were you at when, how did that whole thing unfold for you, where you went from now getting back to skydiving because your friend passed away and you had that memorial skydive, to coming into a place where you encountered the stem cells? And what were your thoughts? What were your feelings? Give
I
us.
was, yep, I was working in a health food store because of the microcirculation and the wellness additives that I'd gotten involved in, and just into health food and organic food. And I was working at a health food store, and my friends that had known about my issues presented this stem cell technology. This is the latest technology for stem cells. And I'm like, yeah, that's nice for people who need stem cells, but I'm good. I'm back to running and jumping and skydiving, and my whole burned up skin thing. I'm getting my eyelashes back. I'm good. I'm good. And I got my wellness device, and they said, okay, that's great for you. But when they showed me how many other people are getting helped by this technology, and how much this this technology is just booming all over the planet in all these other countries, and people that have serious problems, that are not healthy, that have major setbacks and debilitating, chronic issues with their nervous system or their brain or their muscles or whatever, and they're coming out. I mean, I'm not going to make any medical claims that it cures or treats disease, but you see people having major improvement. And I was like, I don't need that, but I know people who need it, so I want to get involved and learn about it. And the more I learned about it, and then I start wearing the patches, for, like, if I'm gonna like promote it, I want to be able to know about it. And then I start getting a benefit that I didn't even expect.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm a positive person. I'm in a good mood. Yep. There you go.
Little
And
patches. I got mine on back here too.
you listen to, yep, there it is. You listen to these patching podcasts, and you hear people in a different way kind of describe like a sense of well-being, or a sense of wellness, or a more positive mood, or more calm, or more confident. And I got that, which I didn't think I wouldn't even expect me. I'm already positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's enough of a difference on the day when I've been wearing it, and, like, waking up and bouncing out of bed, rather than like hitting the snooze and being like, okay, like, and my eyes, to be able to open my eyes right away in the bright light and function. Oh my gosh, my ophthalmologist, this is the third checkup that he's seen for me, because I've been using the patches for 26 months, 27 months actually. And so on my final third checkup with my ophthalmologist, he said, and he brings the little macular health pictures and puts them on the light board, and I don't know what I'm looking at. And he's like, look at this, last year and this year, last year and this year, look at this, look at this, look at this. Your macular health is improving every year. Your vision is improving every year, which I knew, because I don't need my prescription. I don't wear any prescription in my right eye at all anymore. It keeps improving. And what else did he say? Oh, he calls them adhesions. Those are the scars on my corneas.
Oh my God.
Your mucus and your adhesions. He said, I've never seen your eyes look better. So every year as I age, my eyes, my crazy scarred up eyes are improving more than normal people. So I know that my little army of stem cells is active now, and it's helping me a lot. I hardly ever get headaches anymore. That's kind of cool. I mean, I'm I just, those two things by themselves, and it's super subtle and super small, but not having a headache and having your mood be super calm and confident and cool with whatever virus might be floating around, like, whatever, I'm good with it. I'm not worried about it.
Amazing. So that's a really, I think, a great for people to hear. People who have any, again, we're not making any medical claims to cure or to heal or to treat anything, or definitely to diagnose. But people who, we're talking about the eyes now, and there are people who are getting diagnosed with glaucoma. There are people who are diagnosed with macular degeneration. There are people who get diagnosed with cataracts. And as some people may or may not be aware, that with glaucoma, you have an increase in eye pressure, which that increase in pressure, the eye pressure can actually lead to blindness if it's untreated and you're unaware. And so now with the simple use, because the stem cells, they go to repair anything inside or outside of the body. So what does that mean? That means that down at your DNA level, your original blueprints and your genomes are being turned back on because they've turned off. And now your original blueprints, what the stem cells that you were born with, are being activated to make crispy, clean replications of any cell that was damaged. It finds a damaged cell, and it's like, oh, we got to do over. We got to slough this off. So now that comes out in urination, defecation, or perspiration, and it replaces that scar tissue because it rebuilds it because of the increase in collagen. And so now whatever's in the worst repair, that's going to get replaced with an original. So you're like a brand new shiny sports car now, because moving,
it's just moving. Amazing. Like, and it goes in priority.
It goes in priority of whatever's worst, and then the less worse, until once everything's replaced, then it just goes to rejuvenate and keep everything like optimized. It just keeps optimizing, because you continue to signal the body to replicate and keep those stem cells on. So, we have people that after a year on the stem cells are showing anywhere from 15 to 20 years younger. And I think one of the medical reports and science independent research studies that I saw, and I also heard David Schmidt, the inventor, scientist, founder of these stem cell patches, he said that you can get, as you are, whatever age you are, north of 30, you could be 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, 80 years old, and you can get reverted, I think even 90 years old, you can get reverted back to a biological marker state of 25 years old. Game changer. You're going to maybe have done 80 turns around the sun, 90 times, around the sun, whatever your number is. But biologically, you're going to be set back at 25 years of age, which means you're going to feel very energized. You're going to feel pretty awesome because your body it's just like optimizing a computer.
Right.
So that's absolutely fantastic. Well,
you think about when you were 25, you didn't have wrinkles or gray hair or, cataracts or, you sprain your ankle, you bounce back. The recovery time, the soreness, the muscle, the aches, the pains, just like, that's the thing that's cool for athletes is the recovery time. We can practice harder, longer, and not have lactic acid building up because all those little army of stem cells are seeking and destroying all the garbage, like the scars. I have an MRI of my brain that shows all the white spots and all the scarring from my 108 degree, 109 degree fever. And people look at that MRI of my brain and they say, that's an MRI of someone who's brain damaged, right? And so, and here I am stringing sentences together and
Well, yeah, you're completely, totally fine. So let's talk a little bit about that, because you're part of your prognosis from your medical doctors was that you were going to be bald. So that means that you were not going to have any hair anywhere in your body, no hair on your head, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, no hair on anywhere. And so and that means no hair inside your nostrils, which are really vital to filtering the air as you breathe in and as you inhale and you exhale. A lot of people, I'd say that 98% of the population out there is unaware that the breath that you take in through your nostril actually activates and engages your right and your left hemisphere of your brain.
Wow.
So your ability to be able to breathe through your nostrils and to have the little cilia that are catching things along with the mucosal lining inside your nostrils is part of your immune system response, where it catches things and it can purge it, because as it gets germs, viruses, and bacteria, it puts it into the mucus and then it purges it out. If you breathe through your mouth, you get none of that. So you're breathing in unfiltered air, and now those germs, viruses, and bacteria go directly into your lung and into your system, and it spreads like wildfire. So it is important. Those little hairs inside your nose, thank God, literally thank God, that they grew back, as well as.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I did know that the inside of my nose is a lot different than it used to be. And it makes cleaning out my nose a lot more challenging, because before, when the inside of my nostrils were smooth, it was easy to tell that my nose was clean. But after all the scarring, there's little bumps in there, and it's hard for me to tell, is it clean or is that scar tissue? So I know there was a lot of scarring that went on inside there. Same thing with my mouth. The tissue that melted, like you have connective tissue, they had to like cut with scissors some of the connective tissue that melted. And so the scarring, yeah, I'm so glad that I got I like the regeneration of my hair. I didn't even think about the hair inside my nose.
Well, that's why I'm mentioning, because most people aren't aware of the dynamics, because your breath is the remote control of your brain, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on. With my private clients, I bring it to their awareness, and because some of them are mouth breathers, which is why they get sick, they get colds. Anytime they come across anyone who has anything, they're like a magnet for it. Like, we can turn it around. But none of them have the issue of not having the hairs in their nose. Usually it has to do with a deviated septum, a smaller airway. There's dental procedures that have changed some of the things, but none of them have the issue of not having hair inside their nose. But you obviously did. So
crazy thing is, I didn't lose everything completely 100%. Like, my eyebrows got thinner and I lost all the eyebrows from here back. But I kept some of these right here, figures, the ones that you want to pluck. And my eyelashes, all of the bottom ones were gone. In fact, that was part of what my ophthalmologist was remarking about. He said, you have eyelashes on the bottom for the first time in 10 years. They're growing.
Wow.
My bottom eyelashes. I don't know why, like, how does that work? I guess my body, my brain must have been first most important. My eyelashes must have been toward the tail end. I don't know. But I'm glad. And so you have, and the blisters that were in my ears, I remember that. I can remember feeling teeny tiny blisters in my ears when everything was starting. And those hairs are important too, right? To keep everything.
Absolutely. There's hairs that actually interpret, those hairs are attached to nerves, which interpret the vibrational frequency of the sound so that you can actually hear it as music or as words or what have you. So yeah, those hairs are vitally important too. And David says, to say that we can't say that the stem cell patches create hair growth, because that's a medical claim, and it was never tested in the 90 studies. We have 90 independent studies from Harvard to Oxford to Cambridge, Johns Hopkins, you name it. None of them had that as a factor that they were doing testing on, and it wasn't measured. However, we know from thousands, just from the Be Activating group, there's probably like over 10,000 testimonials, and there's like another Telegram group with an incredible number of testimonials too. We've had time and time again people who say, look, I was balding, visibly very balding, where you could see there hardly had any hair on top. Now they've grown back. People who had all white hair, there's a 73-year-old woman who, that wasn't even on her radar, the hair, she just had white hair. And all of a sudden she had all this red hair growing in the back, where her hairdresser's like, what the heck? You have all this red hair that's growing in the back. She's like, that's my original color. And so she ended up dyeing all of her hair. She's like, just dye the whole thing. That's going to look funky white, with a red stripe all in the back. So we've got
my 87-year-old friend, Lorraine, her hair is turning naturally curly. She used to get perms, and now everyone's remarking it's shiny and just naturally curly. She loves it. She's like, my hair. And then you saw Dr. Harmon. He used to have gray hair, and his
Yes.
hair is getting dark all over. My hair, when I was losing my hair, it was kind of a joke. Like I was like a Yeti because I was just like having big patches. I was like, it's kind of like alopecia where you have a big.
Wow.
So they said the bald spot on the back was big enough they could set their Pepsi can on it.
Wow.
But yeah, it's interesting how the scar tissue can mess you up for a while, but it's just your body's cells to repair, and then eventually that system takes out the scarring, right? It reduces the scarring.
Yeah, it actually rebuilds. It starts to rebuild at a cellular level. And then because you have an increase in collagen, it just replaces it with the original tissue. So let's say if you had, let's say a scar on your liver, wherever the scar is, the stem cells will go in and it'll increase the collagen production to replace it and rebuild that same tissue and then slough off the scar tissue. You'll perspire it, you'll defecate it, or you'll urinate it. It'll just come through because it doesn't need that super heavy, like crazy glue bonding agent there anymore because it was replaced with the original. So now it's nice and smooth, which means you're going to have less pain inside your body because a lot of people have scarring unbeknownst to them inside their body and it's causing them pain. And once that's replaced, the pain is gone.
That's a whole nother interesting topic is pain, right?
Yeah.
And the body's healing process and how it's a healthy response to handle problems. So yes. I just think this whole technology and David Schmidt is like amazing. I'm just happy to be part of something like this where there's people that really need to know there's a lot of hope out there,
Yeah. There isn't anything, just, we were, for the most part, most of us were born with fine, where we could see well, we could hear well, we could smell, taste, feel, the systems were all fine. Then something happened, either a trauma or exposure to some sort of environmental toxin. I was just on a plane ride back from Florida from having gone to the stem cell convention. And the guy that was next to me, he did a documentary here in Huntington Beach I was not even aware of. And the documentary is called ASCON, ASCON. And it has to do with, there's a power plant that has caused all sorts of environmental toxins. And it's not just that power plant. Apparently, because Huntington Beach, if you go back 100 years, this was covered with oil wells everywhere. There were no houses. So there's a lot of environmental waste that was thrown into the ground because back then they didn't know that it would affect people. So then as people have gone to build houses, they've dug up that dirt. And then guess what? It was resting fine because it was sealed underground. And then as they dug up stuff to build houses, then everything went airborne. And then all these people started getting sick. All these people with high levels of a cancer rate and brain tumors. And so because of this documentary, there were certain things that were done to stop that so that they could contain all that pollution, environmental pollution, because it was wreaking havoc on people. And so we don't know what we don't know. There's still the majority of people, I would say, here, and this is true. People are saying, oh, that's just there in Huntington Beach. Well, if you guys watch the movie by Aaron Brockovich, that was part of the whole reason why they made that movie, was because there was all sorts of waste that was going in their water supply. There was a company that was, I can't remember what it was that they were creating. And then all their toxic waste was being thrown into the river and it was getting into the water supply. So then there was like this incredible, cancer rate that was going throughout this little town, which was somehow she put two and two together. And she spearheaded the movement to do a class action lawsuit and to,
thank goodness,
to have these people get restitution. And so the bottom line is, oftentimes we have aches and pains and unusual symptoms that we're like, I've always been fine, and then all of a sudden this popped up. You don't know what's happened in your city, in your town, in your neighborhood, in your complex. If you live in an apartment or a condo or townhome or your particular homeowners association, a block of homes, something could have been done and you're not aware of it. and your autonomic nervous system is going to respond and going, whoa, this is
It
not.
is interesting when you look at the timeline of all of these diseases that have been skyrocketing, from like diabetics that are little kids that are starting to get diabetes. That was never happening before.
That
And the
was,
incident of autism in our country, like, not that was never happening before. And all the like cancer and cardiovascular issues and stuff, um
skyrocketing too.
it all coincides when you look back, like all these other things that they've been kind of programming us that this is normal, like these smart meters for your electrical system, that's normal, or the 4G or the 5G or whatever, that's normal, or having all these vaccines when your kids just pile them on top of each other, 16, 17, 18, 20, 22, whatever, it's all good. Like, if it's all coinciding, and then they have on these airplanes that I jump out of, in the very back compartment, there's a placard, and it talks about the process that you should dump chemicals out of planes, even small planes.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually chemicals being dumped out of planes for a couple decades that none of us ever knew about. And then the ones that started to try to tell us were like, oh, come on, they know they wouldn't do that.
They do.
People wouldn't try to hurt us with chemicals in the air. Why would they do that? Or why would the electric company want to make toxic thing? Why would that wouldn't? So
Well,
here we're finding all
they're
kinds
not,
of crazy.
yeah, a lot of it is not done in malice. They're not doing it on purpose to hurt people, but in ignorance, they're doing it and it's hurting people. And as their awareness grows and they become aware that there is a consequence to that, then of course they curb their behavior. But oftentimes there needs to be a lot of consequence, a lot of injured people before they will curb their behavior and do something about it. The thing is that we as human beings, thank goodness for these stem cell patches, because that's a game changer. No matter what we're exposed to, whether it's an accident that we get an injury like yourself, or whether you have an adverse reaction to something like you did as well, whatever your condition is, it can be reset, rebuilt, and restored to an original, healthier state. And I can't emphasize enough how these stem cell patches is a form of stem cell therapy, and it's using the original blueprint that you were born with. And that is so critically important. So we've got just a few minutes here. Are there a few things is there anything that you want to leave this audience with, our viewers here, people who are not just watching live, but people who are going to watch this moving forward? What would you like to share with them as parting comments?
I just feel like God's design is so good and so perfect. And we as people try to invent things that we hope could live up to the original design. When you look, like David Schmidt looks in nature to find out, how are these animals not aging so fast, or how are these creatures able to protect their cells against, like, little Faraday cages that we already have naturally occurring in our body.
Yes.
How we can't even duplicate or replicate or copy breast milk. Like, we can't even do,
No.
we try, like, we are human and we are flawed, and it's just, I feel like there's a lot of hope with these type of products that help the body to heal itself. You have everything that you need programmed already, pre-programmed inside your body. You have all the instructions that you need to clear out the garbage and to regenerate and regrow and rejuvenate your situation with your body. It's too bad that we have less airtime than the pharmaceutical industry. As far as holistic or natural or whatever, it seems like it's harder for people to trust something that might be natural than to trust what their doctor says. And unfortunately, the doctors, I mean, I think they go into medical school hoping to help people. I think they don't mean to be the third leading cause of death in the United States now. They didn't mean it. I don't think they would intentionally.
Yeah, needless to say. And then the medical system is phenomenal with diagnosing, and they obviously saved your life. And
trauma, yeah, for sure. If I had my leg broken, for sure, trauma doctors are the best. They know how to, I mean, technology is great, I just don't know about like managing symptoms with pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
That's a cycle that probably doesn't need to be a cycle.
Yeah. And it's a personal choice. We each have a choice what we put in to our body, what we put on our body. And so the reality is that we have our bodies are infinite in nature because there's infinite realms of possibility. Like you're skydiving, you know, most human beings would agree, and those who are skydivers and well versed professional skydivers would say, well, it's like that's like just about impossible, and that's like suicide mission to even try to do those formations and connect those parachutes. But the human mind, the human spirit, the human body has infinite forms of capability. I went to another science conference in Amelia Island after the stem cell conference that we went to, and they had the discovery of chromosome 2 and chromosome 7, which all these years, you know, we just discovered 2 new chromosomes, which I'm sure David Schmidt probably knows about those 2 chromosomes because this is like his wheelhouse of what he specializes in. But the bottom line is that's infinite. I don't think we will ever stop discovering different realms of infinity within the human body. And with that comes our ability to, you know, we have things in a good state. They can go into an unpleasant, unwanted state. And we have the ability to get back into infinite possibilities of getting back into that healthier, positive, good feeling, rejuvenated state. So, Annie, your story is, you got to write a book, girl. You got to write a book. Go do the book circuit tour and share people your story because this is quite remarkable. I know you're super busy. You literally 2 minutes before we aired, you had just finished another skydive, which you are a phenom. You are Miss Fantas Phenomenal. And I'm so honored to have met you in person and to be able to call you my personal friend now. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'm so glad to meet you too. I feel like we're wellness warrior sisters.
Yes. Wellness warrior sisters, we are. And just like those lobsters that David was studying about their longevity and so forth, we have staying power. We have longevity. We're gonna be in the Centurion Club because we're gonna, like my dad says, I plan on being here till I'm 105. He goes, now with these patches, maybe a little longer. And so I've been saying 105 or 110 for before I even knew about the stem cell patch, you know, therapy being available for myself and my private clients. So we're going to close this episode. If anyone watching this video who is not already actively using the stem cell patches, if you are even remotely, like even 1% curious, and you would like to try a stem cell patch, all you have to do is reach out in the comments below, say, I would love a stem cell patch. You can connect with me either on Telegram or on Facebook, and we'll send you a free sample gift pack. It's basically, each stem cell patch is basically the cost of a cup of coffee. I tell people for the cost of a Starbucks, you can get stem cell patch therapy and completely transform and rebuild and restore your body. So that's it, my friends and gems. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you.
Bye. Ciao for now, my friend and gem.
Bye.
The end.